julep, pop, 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 julep, pop, 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 julep, pop, 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 woo!
Child, what is up, everybody? Welcome back. I get excited. I like that song. That little intro song always gets me amped up. And we've got looks like about 50 people hanging in the crowd with us today. Joe is traveling in New York today. What's up? Shout out to the cold up there. And today, let's see real quick. We're gonna bring one comment up right here because Maggie's saying this reminds me of the early talks. Really looking forward to it. Always relevant. The sales stuff is always some of our favorite stuff to talk about. And so, yeah, welcome back to episode 49 of the Effing Growth live stream. Hello to everyone that's here with us. Before we get too far into this thing, let's effing grow. Okay, what's up, Joe?
Hey, how's it going?
Yeah.
Doing well.
Yeah, it's going well. 49, one episode away from 50. So
Ooh,
we are
nice.
getting up there. Okay, let's say what's up to everybody in the crowd. We got Dale Jensen here. What's up? Grace Walker in the house. You know she is selling some websites for sure. Stephen Hilario, Tony Camacho, Ezekiel Rochat. What's up? We're going to feature a tweet from his later on in the episode. Maria is here. Hello. Daniel Brasnio. Jenna's here. Shane Grady. What's up? Every time I read that, I want to say, will the real Shane Grady please stand up? I don't know why, but Mark Brutus is here. What's up? Michael Collins, Gabriel O, John Philippe, Brandon Tancott, Harley is here. Keith Armstrong, AJ, Penny in the house. Penny, what's up? Felix is here. Radka, what's up, man? Everybody. Okay, first time seeing you live. Hello, Radka.
Nice.
Octane Flow got it in right under the wire. Joe, say hello to the folks.
Hey, that's a nice crowd before we even get started.
Yeah, Caleb
So
Rainey.
great to see everybody here.
I wanted to point out Caleb Rainey and who was it? Penny. Webflow did a little tweet
Saw that.
and they shouted them out. So shout out to you all. Caleb shared his website in the last show and tell we did as a live event. So if you're not hanging out with those, check out our events. We always got cool events coming up and different things. So joining a minute late, Babas is here. Arturo, Kayla, Pete, Miriela. Let's see, Katrina, first Finsweet live. Hey, welcome. And
Nice.
Let's get to this. Let's see. Do we have some events and little updates and little basic things? I think, right? Is that our first thing we need to do here?
Of course.
All right. Let me get back to the comments on the screen. Bear with me here. I'm opening Chrome. Hopefully my CPU doesn't crash. Okay, we're going to make it through the stream today with no problems. We're putting that good juju on it. So upcoming events. Open House has started planning on March 24th. So mark your calendars, March 24th. We're going to be doing a live event. If you haven't done that, if you didn't go last year, there was a big to-do. We had hundreds of people show up. People from Webflow were there, people from the community, all the top YouTubers, everybody from the space was there, hanging out, learning, talking. We're going to do that again this year, and it's going to be a lot of fun. That's already planning, so keep an eye out for that. We wanted to give shout out to No Code Talks, Aaron Connor and Connor Finlayson. They're doing these No Code Talks, and they're also doing something new, this code meets no code. And so they're kind of taking the no code and code to the next level with a little bit of low code. And so check them out. They've got that event along with their no code talks, which I think they just kind of talk about all the no code stuff happening in the no code industry. So shout out to them. Let's see. Oh, one thing. No, we don't want to do that one yet. Yeah, I guess we could do the Webflow show. Let's do that one too. These folks were nice enough to push their show back for about an hour because we were streaming, so we appreciate that. Wanted to give them some love. If you are on Twitter, let's go ahead and we'll share that link. Maybe we can link to the show notes or something like that, Joe, so everybody can have the links here. But anyway, yeah, check those folks out. There's lots of stuff. I keep seeing things pop up, Joe. It's like this community is percolating right now. It's like bubbling. There's lots of new little things popping up, and I love to see that.
Absolutely. I think people are starting to see the value in this. People want it. And when people start these communities and start these events, they're seeing a lot of positive results from that. So, yeah, we're seeing them pop up all over, and that is a really positive thing for the Webflow industry as a whole.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Uh, Apologize for anyone if we're getting a little bit of screen lag. We are getting just a little bit of buffering here, but hopefully that'll settle down here in a sec once we get out of all this Chrome stuff. But okay, so the prompt this week was for the audience to tell us what you think it takes to sell more websites, right? What do you think? Oh no, we got disclaimers first. Before we get to that, let's do these disclaimers, Joe.
Disclaimer.
Yeah, sorry, I'm
Okay.
one step out of it. I was trying to get into it, but let's go into the disclaimer first, and then we'll get into the audience prompt.
Disclaimer number one, we are all selling to different audiences. So what works for, let's say, an enterprise SaaS company may not work for a local business, like a restaurant or a dentist or a doctor or any of these types of businesses. So understand your audience. We're going to be giving some specific information about how to sell, but be open to switching this and really making this work for whoever you are selling to. This is
Yeah.
not a one size fits all. Sales is not like that for any industry.
Yeah. Yeah, and the other thing is that we're going to talk a lot about Webflow here, but a lot of times the client is agnostic to the platform, right? So something that a few of you pointed out in the tweets and in the comments was that it's about solving problems, not necessarily selling Webflow, which is a good point and something to always keep in mind, right? The platform is a tool that allows us to solve these problems for clients, but a lot of times we need to be agnostic to the tool. We just have to figure out the best way to solve the problem for the specific client. So, even though we are all in on Webflow, it's
I'd
the
like
context
to
of presenting. Go ahead. I know you got something to say on this because you're always good to bring us back into the world of Webflow.
I'd like to partly disagree with that. I think there is a place to just sell solutions in general, but in a lot of cases, Webflow can be the answer to your problem. It can be the solution. So if Webflow as a platform brings the solution, whether that's quick and easy edits, whether that's editor access, you may want to sell Webflow. So sometimes it makes sense to go 100% into Webflow. Sometimes it makes more sense to just solve the problem. I like to think that they can both live together, but we'll get into that. We're going to be talking a lot more about how you can do that.
Yeah, and I guess the caveat here is to not necessarily get lost in just selling the platform. Lots of people get excited about Webflow and they just go ham selling Webflow, which it's important to understand the platform and understand what you're selling. But just don't get too lost selling the platform. Obviously you understand the features, benefits, etc. But let's dive into the next step. The audience prompt, we asked you all to kind of take a look and think about what your tips are for selling more websites in 2022. And we wanted to run through a few of those because they will be relevant to the conversation as we go. So Marcel was saying, stop selling them as Webflow sites, start selling them as solutions, which is kind of what I was saying there in the beginning. So there's some sentiment there. Joe, we'll go back and forth if you want to read the other ones here.
Sure. We have from Agris, show your work, share the idea and the result, share the process, share the benefits of choosing Webflow. That show your work comment is so important. It drives me nuts when I see a portfolio and you don't really see the work, maybe one or two work pieces. If you have the work, you have to show it. That's a great one, Agris.
Yeah, for sure. And then Christian comes in and says, educate yourself every day and ride the new wave of features and news. So being on top of the industry, being in the space, like knowing kind of what's going on is super important for all of this. And if you've got some thoughts on this, like leave it in the comments right now. Once we get through these couple tweets, we'll go into the comments here and we'll take a second just to take some thoughts from the crowd as well. Joe, you want to read this next one? Because it kind of ties with the last one you read too.
Sure. Talk about projections while showing examples, your portfolio. Things like this website helped the business reach, do, sell, and improve. Clients love to hear about success stories and how that could replicate in their business. Nice. Absolutely. That's a good one.
Yeah, and it ties in again to having the portfolio, but also to back it with the solution you solved, right? So, like, if you're in a niche,
Hmm.
if you're in a specific industry, if you're whatever, like, don't just say you did the thing, but also kind of showing the examples of how you did the thing you say you did. So Ezekiel here is bringing up a good point. Devote 1 minute. Devote minimum 1 hour per day to prospecting, sales, marketing, content creation, relationship building, etc. If you're a freelancer and agency owner, you are in sales. This is a really key
Nice.
point. A lot of people forget this. A lot of people forget that you have to kind of maintain that consistent activity, and then you end up in these up and down curves, where you like drive a lot of sales, you do a lot of stuff, and then you start delivering on all of that, and you stop selling, you stop marketing, and then once you deliver all the work, you're left around looking like, oh shit, where's my next deal, right? So you always have to like keep that top of mind, that you need some of that coming in to keep you busy. You got to keep that pipeline primed. Joe Harshit's got some good points here. You want to read that one?
Okay, from Harshit, providing premium experience to the client with an easy and solid onboarding, understanding and engaging with the client throughout the process, delivering quality work with client first, and effing tools, love it, and following all necessary launch checklist and after sales support. Nice. So Harshit saying from the beginning to the very end, it's got to be premium. The work can't be a second idea. It has to be super premium. I really care about you. That's what I'm feeling from this comment.
Yeah, yeah, and we're gonna go through this because Harshit outlines 4 steps here, but I'm gonna outline 5 steps to every sale here, and I'll show you how like some of this makes a lot of sense. But yeah, I wanted to point out the fourth one: following all necessary launch checklists and after sales support, because a lot of people start selling and or just move on to the next project once they deliver the website, and they forget that customer satisfaction and their ability to kind of deliver as they go for that client's needs is really important, especially if you want to get the referrals and stuff, which you'll see is really going to be helpful in selling more websites in the next year. Josh Jacobs, community veteran here: leverage the Webflow showcase. I'd say 50% of my leads come from there.
Nice.
Showcase your personal projects on your own page and make sure you showcase client work and attribute it to yourself in the description. Build it and they will come. Coming from a Clone Comp winner and somebody who for sure uses the showcase to express their work, that was just a good point to make. I did the same thing. The showcase was a huge place for me. I still have sites that are cloned every month in the showcase, like 30, 40 times, whatever a month, which is kind of crazy because I haven't updated that in a long time. But yeah, super good. I know we use that a lot. Joe, any thoughts on just that strategy?
It's a great marketing strategy. Absolutely. When we go into the steps of sales, I believe the first one is about getting people interested. And I think this is how you can get people interested in this industry, the Webflow Showcase.
Nice.
It's a way for you to show creativity. It's a way for you to really market yourself, get yourself out there. So yeah, great one, Josh.
100%. And then the last one we're going to showcase from Twitter here is Gabe Dufresne. Listen to the client's problems and deliver solutions, not just a pretty design. I've also found that demonstrating the power and simplicity of the Webflow editor, and I think just Webflow in general. So that's what we talked about, is right. Solve the problem and also show how Webflow provides those solutions for the client, I think is really the way to tie that all together there. So much love to everybody who participated with that on Twitter, and shout out to 92 folks in the audience right now hanging with us. So what's up, everyone? Hopefully the stream's coming through loud and clear. Let's take a look real quick at some of these comments. Joe, have you seen anything pop in here that let's see.
Yes. Let's see. 6 dots. What would you recommend to somebody who is just starting out and looking for freelance work to build up their portfolio? We've had several episodes about this earlier in the growth series. I would also recommend that you check out finsweet.com/strategy. I think 6 dots, you just need to start building sites. Whether you're being paid for it or not, you absolutely need to build up that portfolio if you are just starting out. So my answer is yes, build that portfolio.
Nice. Okay, Retrovision, we're not doing support here, but yeah, if you reach out to sweetjs.io or on Twitter, we can usually handle that there. So let's see, want to find more clients so I can practice all these sales strategies. Well, that's part of it. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. So let's get to it. Let's run through. This is a good point here. Who just said that? Somebody just said smash that like button. Where is that? There it is. Maggie. Okay.
Maggie, nice.
Shout out. We always appreciate that. Let's see. Okay, so 5 steps to every sale. I want to just walk you through this because everyone's got like some special sales system. They got some fancy little whatever they want to get you to, pay them $1,000, to learn their secret sales sauce, whatever. But there's really just 5 steps to whatever. Any of those systems boil down to these like 5 steps. First, you got to win somebody's attention. Let's go back to this. First, you got to win somebody's attention, right? And this is the battle like we're seeing online. This is kind of what part of this stream is about. This is what, the whole thing is about. It's got to get somebody's attention, right? There's a lot of things on the internet. How are they going to find you? So that's step 1 to every sale. Step 2, you got to tell a compelling story, right? We're seeing this kind of become more and more important as brands lean on story, as brands lean on community, and as those stories kind of become the catalyst for individual brands to like leapfrog into the big leagues, right? And so tell me some kind of compelling story. That story ideally helps build trust, right? And so the longer and the better and the more compelling that story is, the more other people you get to tell your story for you, the more trust you build, right? So ideally that leads to step 3, which is go ahead.
Can I add one more thing to the story?
Yeah.
Okay. A lot of people, when we say tell the story, we're thinking of telling a story about ourselves.
Right.
Think about telling a story about the person you're selling. This is where I like to sell Webflow. I am going to tell you a story about how Webflow as a platform will change the way that you manage your website. It's going to change the way you make updates. It's going to change the way you collaborate to make updates. So you can tell a story about yourself and how your process, your brand, your work is going to help them. But people like stories about themselves. People like to visualize what their future is going to look like. So the story can go both ways.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's the best way you build that trust, right? Is you tell the story from the perspective of the customer. We've talked about in previous episodes that like it's the fireball analogy with Mario. Remember, you're not selling necessarily the leaf, right? You're selling Mario with the ability to throw fireballs. And so you need to present your solutions in the context that the customer can really wrap their arms around. And again, that's where the story gets you into that building trust situation. And if you do that effectively enough, then you can get to the point where you can make an ask, or you can ask for a transaction, or you can make that conversion is, right? So then there's that transaction step. And then after that, it really just becomes delivering, right? So the 5th step is following through and delivering everything you say you're going to do. And that's where Harshit's comment from earlier makes sense, because especially if you want the referrals and you want people coming back to do more business with you, you need the people who you sell to tell people good things about what it is that you did for them. Joe, 100% customer satisfaction policy at Finsweet. You obviously believe in that. Talk a little bit to that, that last step of just following through and just doing the things.
Well, I think it's a requirement in this type of industry. If you are not following through, there will be a point where you do not have any more business and you will not be able to sustain the business. So when we agree to a project, we agreed to it because we know we can do it. We know that we can follow through. And we see a lot of people not following through because they've overpromised, or they've done something that it wasn't clear in the beginning of the process. In the first 4 steps, there was something not clear and they're not able to follow through. So following through is an absolute requirement. If you agree to do something, you have to go do it.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that people get a little lost in that step. They get excited about selling. They get excited about landing the next deal, and sometimes you lose track of that. That's how you build a legacy business, is to really maintain that that standard of quality across time. Okay, I apologize. I feel like we're getting some pretty heavy lag on the video here. Just FYI. Not 100% sure what's causing that again, but it does look like it's happening. So, okay, so into the next step, the things that the website must deliver, right? So those are the 5 steps to every sale. Here are 4 things that your website must deliver in 2022. These things are not, no longer can be skipped, right? These are not things that can be overlooked. These are not things that you can kind of breeze over. Joe, do you want to start us off here?
Sure. Number 1, clarity. Client's brand message needs to be delivered in a clean way with purpose. This is part of the sales process, telling people that when you go and rebuild your site, when I design your site or I redevelop your site or I migrate your site, your brand message is going to be delivered. It's going to be preserved. So yeah, people want to hear this. They want to hear that there is going to be clarity in their web presentation.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And this is something that you can add value on from a sales standpoint, right? You don't always need to sell more websites, as in a number of websites. You can also charge more for the websites you do sell. And so these are ways to add value. If you can help a customer kind of clarify their call to action, if you can help them clarify the process that as people walk through, and simplify that conversion process for folks, which is something as designers we do all the time. These are things that you can charge more for. And the more happy clients that you have that you do this for, the more you can do that again moving forward. And so, yeah, for sure, helping with that clarity, which leads into the second one, which is performance, making sure that the website is performant. We've talked a lot about WordPress in the last few weeks. And one of the things that I struggle with all the time with WordPress is getting sites to load under that 3 to 5 second threshold, right? That can be tedious. Whereas with Webflow, it's like millisecond page load speeds. Performance is kind of built in. Clients expect that now, right? You kind of expect that quick, responsive website. Joe, thoughts on performance?
I think throughout this entire episode, I'm going to try to encourage people to sell Webflow, that you're selling a solution, but also selling Webflow. This is another thing that I love to do. Telling people that I'm going to do everything I can to make your website fast, but also this platform is going to make your website more fast. I remember when I was selling WordPress, people would ask for fast sites, and I'd say, well, I can do my best, but I can't promise anything, because there is always there's so many things happening in WordPress. So moving to a platform like Webflow, you can explain how lightweight the infrastructure is, how lightweight the entire project becomes. And this, I think, is a great opportunity to sell the platform. Sell your knowledge in making performance sites, but also sell the platform that enables you to do that and delivers that for you.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with that 100%. And that's where you kind of have to balance that the platform itself versus the solutions you offer, right? Mm-hmm. Because you plus the solutions is Mario throwing the fireball, right? You plus Webflow is, a web designer that can do all of the things. And so don't be scared to know and understand that platform and use it to your benefit, but also finding that blend, and that performance is a great place to do that. Accessibility is another great place, where Webflow can help you. They've got that web accessibility panel. This is the third thing of the 4 things that websites must deliver. Accessibility is not something you can overlook anymore. Companies are getting sued for this. People are running into all sorts of issues. This is something that companies are becoming more and more aware of, that they're asking their web developers before they start. It used to be, you could get away through the whole sales process and a company may never ask you about web accessibility. Now it's coming up all the time at the beginning of conversations, Joe. So talk about the importance of web accessibility.
We lost a few sales because we didn't have any good information about accessibility. This was last year. People started asking about it as we got to larger clients. I'm looking for this accessibility, this, and this. And if you don't know anything about it, you can't really talk about it, which means you can't educate about it, you can't sell it. And this is a big problem. So accessibility, I really believe, is going to be more and more important, and it just will not be an option anymore. So just start learning it, start understanding it, because there will be a point where somebody asks you for it, you can't explain it, and you lose that sale because you don't know accessibility.
Correct. Yeah. Yeah, it's a big sticking point. If you're selling to clients that understand or that are keeping up at any level, this is something that's on their mind. Okay, and the last thing is desire, right? And we talk about this a lot. This is how you beat that number one in the sales, right? The first step of the sales cycle is to get attention. So if you can be the person who builds desire into the client's website, that helps them build these interfaces that, help suck more clients in for them, you're going to win every single time. And so the more desire, that you can build, and this is not just for your clients' websites, but this is for you, right? So how do you build desire? How do the products that you build desire for you? Right? How does another company see the work you did for your last project and say, I don't want to work with anybody else, even if I have to pay a little bit more, even if I have to wait a few months, like whatever it is, I need to work with this person. And that's the thing that like all the stuff we talk about leads up to. It adds up to that, right? All of the doing the things right, all the client first stuff, all of the just working with the mindset of keeping the customer happy, that all leads up to building those desirable projects and having that portfolio of work that sucks people in. So, Joe, any thoughts on that last of the four?
No more thoughts. That's correct. I'd love to move to the next one.
Nice.
Things you must deliver as a successful web professional in the context of sales. The first one we have on this list is become a master at your trade. This one, I really believe, is the key component in being successful in sales. Not getting one sale, not getting two sales, consistently getting sales, being a master at your trade. And the reality is, everybody can become more of a master. You are never done learning. I thought that I knew everything I needed to know to sell 2 years ago, and I could explain any process and I could help anybody adopt Webflow as a platform. 2 years later, I feel like I know twice as much. I'm even more prepared to sell Webflow because I know so much more about the platform. I know so much more about how people are using the platform. So being a pro in Webflow, understanding what Webflow is, I think it's just a requirement for being consistently successful in Webflow sales.
Yeah.
And I'm saying Webflow sales, I understand that we are selling our service. We're selling not just Webflow as a platform, but the reality is everybody listening to this is probably building in Webflow.
Yeah.
So you're going to get Webflow questions. You have to be able to answer those like a pro.
Yeah. Yeah, and this is one of those places where the more you know about code, the more you know about the web, the more you know about how things work, the better you're going to be with Webflow. And this, again, is part of what being a master is, right? If you're a Webflow master and you don't understand the box model or CSS positioning, or you don't understand how, like this stuff kind of comes together to get the designs, like you're not really a master, and it's going to be hard for you to really talk convincingly enough to these bigger clients that will help you take it to the next level. And so really digging in and finding ways to like grow that knowledge base, and also start to build trust with an audience, which can kind of be part of that, right? Build digging into the community, right? So this is the next step. First step is become a master at your trade. Second step is build trust with an audience, which comes from becoming a master. The more work you do at a master level, the more you start to build trust with an audience. This can be either through resources, through teaching, through training, through whatever. These are the things that help you start building that trust with first a community, right? And then clients, right? So you start building with some folks, that gives you a little bit of trust to land some kind of client. As you build trust with that client, then you can build trust with the industry. And then that's kind of like the tier of building trust is like the goal, right? You start out at some level, community level, you start landing a bunch of clients, and then hopefully the industry themselves trust you. Joe, any thoughts on that?
So important, incredibly important. This is one of the reasons why we do so many community projects and products, that when people search how to filter in Webflow, we're a top result. And if they have a complex filtering problem, who are they going to come to? They're going to come to people who have built a filtering solution for the platform they're working on. So this is incredibly important, this building of trust through knowledge, through, just providing solutions that people are interested in. And I'm not saying that you need to go and release some public thing that everybody's using. It can be internal. It could be a process that you have. It could be a collection of case studies showing your past work. This can all build trust. So
Yep.
this is just incredibly important.
Nice. You want to take number 3 on the list there too?
Yeah. Promote your work across multiple channels. This is where Josh came in with the put your work on the showcase. This is a way to promote your work across multiple channels. This is one of the channels. You can be on Twitter, you could be on Facebook, you can be on YouTube, you can be everywhere. Ideally, all of them. And this, I wouldn't say this is required. I would say this helps you. You may still have a successful business and really not advertise your company like this, promoting through multiple channels. But it's just going to help you. It's going to bring you more leads. It's going to get more people talking about you. So this is very important.
Yeah. I agree. And this is how you get to the place where you can kind of, like you can have some fun, right? This is where you can get creative. This is where you can start playing and building with your personal brand. Is when you find these channels that you can really catch steam on. And that could be YouTube, that could be the Webflow Showcase, that could be Twitter, it could be lots of different things. But for sure, have some kind of place where you corral your work and a place where you kind of promote that. And that takes us to number 4, which is finding strategic partners and asking for referrals, right? So, and this isn't necessarily just asking like, hey, do you have web clients? But it's like creating opportunities where people know that you're the person to send web clients to, right? Where it's like, you're just the person that when anybody's got something on the web, they're like, yeah, you just go to Joe. Joe's the guy that builds the websites. That's where you want to get. And that can be strategic partners in another industry. It could be in your industry. It could be in maybe you're working with a designer and you're the developer. There's a number of ways that you can build strategic relationships in this space to kind of help build that referral stream. Joe, can you kind of shed any light on strategic partnerships, how they might help folks generate referrals or more leads here?
Sure. We've been trying to do a lot more of this at Finsweet, specifically on the design side, that we're not designing anymore. So we're trying to find trusted partners to send this design work to, have them complete it, and then the client comes back for the development work. I will say this is tough. We have not mastered this yet. I'm not ready to do a full episode on how to create partnerships like this. But start testing them, start experimenting with them. If you find somebody that is really good at a certain type of design or really good at a specific technical development flow, start to talk to them. Start to say, hey, I'm starting to get some people talking about technical SEO. I don't really want to do that. Can I send them your way? The big thing here is to not expect anything in return. When you start doing referrals only to get something back in return, that's when it just doesn't work, in my opinion. So start talking to people, start testing this out and understanding how you can link up with people to share resources.
Yeah, that's 100. I think because going into, we'll skip forward to number 8. Go ahead.
Oh, let me add one more to this. This is actually really important in the sales process to help the person understand that they have the full service available to them. If we get a client in that says, hey, we have a huge development project, we also need design and we need SEO. If we say, okay, we can do development, but we don't do design and we don't do SEO, now that lead is thinking, well, this company only does one of the 3 services that we need. This may turn them away. If another company says, yeah, we do all 3 of those, this lead may gravitate towards that person that does all 3 of them. So it's much better to say, hey, I don't do SEO, I don't do design, but I know Caleb is great at design. And I've worked with Caleb. I've sent business to Caleb in the past. He will do a great job with design for you. We have Mirella, who's great at SEO, great at accessibility. So I'm going to send you to her for these things. And then you come to us for development because we are the best at development. But these 2 people are going to help you with these other services. This is so much more helpful than just saying, nope, we don't do those services. We're only talking about development. So this is a much more key part of the sales process than just finding partners to share.
We're going to talk about the inverse of that in the 8 sales tips from Jay. I'll save that for a little bit later. Okay, so step number 4 was finding strategic partners and finding ways to ask for referrals. This goes to leads, etc. Step number 5 is selling solutions, not pretty designs. and this makes me feel like a solution that we could have designed was having this stuff on like slides so we could share all the notes with everyone. We should post the show note. Let's publish this and post the show note in the chat.
Yeah.
But selling solutions, not pretty designs. We've talked about this. We don't need to beat this. This is just something you have to do as a successful web professional. If you're not doing this for customers, you won't be doing it for customers for long, right? So, Joe, you want to jump right into number 6?
Yes. Know your worth. Know your worth. That's an important one. A lot of people may come to you as a lead and try to get the best price and try to cut your prices in half. Know your worth. Don't just say yes just because you need a project right now or just because you think this is going to be a good opportunity for you. Have minimums and stay to them. Understand your worth. So this is important for any sales process, of course.
Yeah, and always be experimenting with increasing your worth, right? Increasing what you charge, increasing the value you provide, and finding ways to do some of that. A lot of people get stagnant with their pricing. Go ahead, Joe.
Yeah, I just remembered something really important. I'd love to give a shout out to Grace. We were on a growth stream weeks ago, maybe months ago. And Grace said she had too much work. So she just had too many people coming to her for work. She's very talented. People are looking for Grace to build her the brand and the website for them. So I said to Grace, double your prices. If you have business lined up for 4 months or 5 months, just increase it, double it, triple it, see what happens. If you lose a few of those sales on the doubling, it doesn't matter because you're booked up for 4 months. And Grace a few weeks ago wrote to me and said, hey, I doubled my price, like you said. And the person said yes, just like that. That's amazing. So know your worth. If you're getting booked up and you have this walkaway power, you have this ability to say, hey, I'm not doing your project. I can do some other project. I'm not going to work with whatever terms you're giving me. This is really powerful. I think a lot of people in this industry are actually undercharging. Maybe you're not. I'm not saying everybody should raise their prices, but I think a lot of people are undercharging. So if you have walkaway power, if you have the ability to say no to somebody, consider increasing your prices. So Grace, great job with that. A real shout out. And I think a model for a lot of people in the industry. Grace started from an agency. She went out on her own, and now we're finding she doubled her prices. So this is really possible in this industry.
Yeah. And Joe mentioned a couple times there, he was during number 6, which is know your worth, but building that walkaway power, which I think will come up again. So let's not spend a bunch of time on that. We've talked about it a number of times. It's going to come up in the 8 sales tips from Jay. So we'll just close with always plant new seeds, right? So know your worth, obviously, is number 6. Number 7, build that walkaway power, which we'll talk about here in detail in just a second. And 8 is kind of always keep planting those new seeds. Always find ways to, like Joe said, pay it forward, help others without expectation of anything specifically as a reciprocal return. You will get return. You will start to see the fruits of that labor over time if you do this effectively enough and you do this like to help enough people. Zig Ziglar, one of my favorite quotes when I ever got into like the business of sales, was something like, you can have everything else you want in this world as long as you help enough people get what they want first. Nice. And it was always one of those things that, like, if you can find ways to help solve problems for folks in whatever little way, that's how you get to the next level, and that's how you can elevate yourself. And so planting new seeds, finding ways to get in touch with communities, et cetera, is always a good key to, take those sales to the next step. Joe, and unless you have any other thoughts on there, we can jump into these 8 sales tips.
Let's go to the 8 sales tips. I'll give a little bit of an intro about Jay before we go into these tips. Also, we can't forget the comments. I don't have any specific ones picked out, but I'm seeing a lot of good comments throughout this stream. So, okay, let's get into Jay. Jay is our head of enterprise, head of sales at Finsweet. And Jay now manages the entire process. This used to be a position that I took. For the first 4 or 5 years at Finsweet, I did 100% of the sales. Everything from talking to the lead, to selling the lead, to doing the contract, to onboarding the developer, to saying thank you to the client at the end and making sure we get the final payment. This was a position that I knew I would not be able to do forever, right? As you're growing a company and as there's more and more people joining, we're now at 45 people, you cannot spend 100% of your time on sales or even 50% of your time on sales. This is a big time investment. So I knew that I needed to find somebody doing sales for Finsweet. And this, I thought, was the hardest position to fill of all time. The hardest position. And the reason is, I truly believe that you need to have knowledge in Webflow to sell Webflow. If you don't know how to talk about Webflow, it's going to be really difficult for somebody to get somebody on that platform. And especially as a development company, we are selling Webflow. As much as people want to say that you're selling a solution, selling an end product, especially if you're in development, you are selling Webflow. That's what we do. So I knew this was tough because if you know how to build in Webflow, you're probably building in Webflow. Not many people in this industry are like, oh, I'm a pro in Webflow, but I'm not going to design, I'm not going to develop, I'm just going to do sales. This is rare. So Jay reached out to me and really painted that end solution. He right away said, hey, I can see Finsweet growing. I want to take the time. I want you to spend less time on sales. I want to run sales. I have these qualifications. I don't know anything about Webflow or very little about Webflow, but I am very ready to learn. And it took a lot of convincing. He sent a lot of messages to me, and he finally convinced me that this was a good idea to try out. And I think maybe 3 months, 4 months of dual selling, and I've completely stepped away from the process. This has been a huge, huge benefit to Finsweet. This has now allowed me to spend time elsewhere, like doing this show, like building attributes with our team, like building client first with our team, growing the team in general. I mean, these are really, really important things. And Jay has enabled me to do this. And we haven't mentioned this, but this is a way that you can increase your sales in 2022. If your company is getting larger, consider finding somebody to do those sales for you. If you're the best designer ever, or if you're a wonderful designer, your time may not be best spent doing sales. Your time may be best spent doing branding. This could be a really good trade-off for you. So this is what Jay has done for us. Jay is now managing 100% of the process with a new project manager, and he sent us these tips before this show. So we're going to go over Jay's tips, and we haven't edited them. We haven't done anything to them. These are straight from Jay, and they're really good. So let's get into them.
Clarify. I did adjust some of the titles. So
Okay.
That's the only edit. I just kind of but it didn't, not a lot. I just he gave me these cool paragraphs. And so I kind of in a couple places I added, made them just a little more poignant so we could get them up on screen and make it super nice. And for folks who know, we usually go for about an hour, but we've probably got, 20-ish, 25 minutes maybe of this in these 8 tips. So if you have to dip, cool, but this is content forever on YouTube. So we're going to go through it. And it's super good. So Joe, let's take it from the top with Jay's sales tips.
Okay, Jay's sales tip number 1. It's more effective to clarify and educate than it is to convince and sell. This is so important. When somebody says, hey, I'm thinking about Webflow, Jay is saying clarify and educate why they should pick a Webflow, or if Webflow is a good choice for them. Don't convince them or sell them that Webflow is the best. Jay says, I don't believe in twisting people's arms to buy from me. I want them to almost convince me to sell to them. I love it. Absolutely. So don't force people to buy from you. People should be excited and pumped to buy from you if you clarify and educate instead of convince and sell.
Yeah. And I will say that to point out that it's easier to have that what we'll call the takeaway later. But but it's easier to do to get the client to convince you as to why they you should work with them, as opposed to why like when you have the big portfolio or from an agency side, right? Because you have limited scope and companies may need specific talent or whatever. And so this is kind of what sets people apart, right? And so getting to the place where that you can get the customer to convince you why you should work with them, as opposed to you selling them, right? Maybe they need to sell you. So I really like Jay flipping the table there, which takes us into his second tip, which is really qualifying the leads. These were kind of together, and this is one of those places where I think I kind of broke things out. But not everyone that comes to you as a lead is going to be the perfect fit for you, right? A lot of times we get so eager to sell that when we get a lead and we get somebody who's got $5,000, $10,000, $500, whatever it is to sell on a website, we're like, oh, they should spend that with me for sure. Not thinking that maybe it's not a fit for your niche. Maybe the client is not right for you. Like there's a million reasons why you need to qualify that lead for your specific industry or for your specific type. And not doing so can lead to headaches down the road, which again, we'll address. But qualifying those leads is super important. Joe, any thoughts on that?
Really important. That goes right into the next one, walkaway power, where you have to have the ability to walk away. Being ready and willing to lose a project is not a bad thing. Signing up and engaging with a bad client is a bad thing. So being able to say, hey, I appreciate this project, but this is not for us. This is something you have to get better at, because you don't want to engage with a bad client. And that's why you have to qualify them and be ready to say no if it's not the fit that you're looking for.
Yeah.
So that's an important one. Absolutely.
Well, and this may not be something you can do right away, because this comes from having steady lead flow. Like we were talking about Grace before, she has walkaway power, right? If she has to say no to a client, if you got 4 months worth of deals, you could walk away from somebody. You could say, no, that's not the right one for me, right? Or you can increase your prices. If you only have one client and you're scrambling to find the next one, it's hard when somebody comes to you with a $2,000 budget and says, hey, I want to do this website, and you typically charge $5,000 for a website. You're like, maybe I'm going to take that $2,000 because I need it, And so this is where I would say, if you're in that stage rather than like an advanced stage where you have the walkaway power already, is figure out what you can do to increase that qualified lead flow, right? So what can you do? What activities can you take instead of trying to sell more websites? Maybe you're not at the phase where you're selling enough websites to like double your website sales or whatever. What can you do to double your lead flow, right? So instead of thinking selling more website projects, how do you generate more qualified leads? And as you build that up, you'll generate that walkaway power, which will give you the opportunity to sell more deals, right? The more desperate you are to close a deal, the harder it is going to be to close that deal. The less you want it, the more you're able to say, okay, whatever. The more the people are going to, well, why doesn't he want to work with me? Is my money not good enough? Do I have to give you more money? Like what is the thing? And this is like, you change the dynamic of that sales relationship. So Joe, any final thoughts before we jump into the tip number 4?
Let's jump in.
Got
You
it.
want to take it? You want me to take
go for
it? Okay. Turn non-sales into referrals. Just because you're not working with somebody doesn't mean that you can't work with them in the future, or you can't be a piece of referral business for them in the future. This has happened to us several times where we were talking to companies for weeks and we decided this is not for us. Or maybe even they said no to our proposal. And in the future, this company either came back to us for work in the future, or they referred business to us. This actually happened. We almost entered into a contract with a company, said, no, we're not going to work with you. And then we got a referral from that company about 6 months later for a big project. And the big project said, this company said that you did a really good job speccing out the project for them, and we'd like that same treatment. So just because it's not a sale, just because you're not going to work with this person doesn't mean that this person is useless to you. This can be your next client. It can be a source of your next business. And it's not going to happen right away. You're not going to say no to somebody and the next day they come and work with you. It could be next year, the year after. This is something that a lot of people don't think about. that if somebody's not interested in buying, goodbye, see you later, we don't want to talk to you. But that's just not how it works in this industry. People
Yeah.
have multiple site builds, they come back and they come back.
Yeah, I want to read. Jay wrote specifically here, they will remember your leadership, knowledge, and service. They will remember you when talking to colleagues, spouses, friends, and acquaintances. Any one of them might be your next client or referral, or whatever it is. So you can lose the opportunity, but gain their respect, and along with that, many referrals. And so that, I think, leads us right into the next point, which I'll take, which is don't be afraid to deliver the bad news. Right. And sometimes this is, hey, we can't work with you. Sometimes this is, we can't deliver the goods here. There's a number of reasons. There's a number of things that you may need to tell a client that is bad news, but don't shy away from this. Again, this is that, building a reputation for being frank and forward with people. You build trust with a customer. Maybe you give them maybe you don't make the money, but you give them the right solution, which again, they're going to thank you for, because, even if you don't get that deal from them, like, you just did the right thing in that instance. And they move on. They're no longer part of you, right? They're no longer your thing to deal with, right? So if that bad news somehow is like a cutting of a tie or something like that, delivering that bad news separates them from that. So a number of channels there, but like, you can't be afraid to just deliver the hard news, right? Or when you can't do something, don't dance around things. Don't try to hide stuff. Don't try to like sneak it in somewhere. It'll always come back to bite you in the ass.
The hardest one for me, the worst news for me to deliver to somebody is that their website is not a good candidate for Webflow. This is so hard for me to say because it's really rare to say this. Usually, almost every marketing site is very qualified for a Webflow project. But there are times where we see specs and we say, hey, Webflow is not for you. Based on your specs, we do not recommend that you use Webflow. Usually it's translation related. It's a company that has very specific and complex translation needs. But this is difficult and people respect you for it. I remember I spoke to a company that had very difficult requirements and they were so close to starting, but they wanted to talk to us first. And they really thanked us. They said, I am so happy that you're turning us away from this because I didn't know this wasn't possible. I didn't know this wasn't possible. I didn't know this wasn't possible. And now I know.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised if that company comes back to us in a few years or when translation is available and comes and work with us because we talked to them for a week and we helped them.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's one of those things where, like, again, that's the value add. And you can use this to your advantage, right? You can say, like, hey, look, these things are not possible in this platform. And if anybody tells you they are, they're either doing X, Y, or Z. Right now, when they go into that next sales meeting with somebody and they say, oh, yeah, we can do that, you've armed that person with some tool to say, hey, how are you doing that? Right? Are you X, Y, or Z? Right? And now they're more informed in that decision. They can call somebody else to task. And if that triggers a BS flag in that interaction, well, now they're coming back to you, right? Because you gave them the tools to defend against that, BS. And so again, just because it's not the right fit doesn't mean you shouldn't do it, or that it's bad news. You should hide away from it. Which goes right into the next point, which is never force a sale. Joe, you want to take the first swing at that one?
Never force a sale. If it's not supposed to happen, don't make it happen. This absolutely happens with a lot of people. When you don't have that walkaway power, sometimes you force yourself into the project. This could be months of terrible news for you. If you have bad feelings about it, if you think it's not a good fit, don't force it, because it could be weeks or months of unhappy work and dealing with a company that you don't want to deal with. And this is really bad. I think this is a really negative part of the industry, being stuck in a project that you don't want to be in. So don't force the sale. If it's not supposed to happen, if the person's really not sure about it, and you've given them all of your best sales education, all of your best sales tactics, don't push too hard.
Yeah. This also goes with clients like who maybe are not good culture fits for you, right? And you see little warning flags and you're like, oh, maybe we should walk away from this, and you don't. You know, like this leads to bad stuff, right? And it's actually this takes us to the eighth one, which is, so maybe we won't, but let's skip the order here, which takes into like selling your team into a hole, right? So we're gonna skip from 6 to 8, and then we'll go back to 7, because if you force the sale, if you find somebody who's not ideal to work with, like so many bad things are going to happen, right? Because now not only do you have to deal with this, but your team has to deal with this. And if it's just you, it's okay, no big deal. But what may happen in that instance is you get tired of working with this person and you deliver a shit website. You know, those little details, those little things that you might have gone the extra mile for don't happen, which again hurts your overall like longevity here. And if it's not you doing all the work, if you have a team, now they have to deal with all of that, which lowers team morale. It makes people like, oh shit, I don't want to take another one of these clients, or like, it's going to be another shit client I had to deal with. So like that's never good, right? So yeah, no, never selling your team into a hole. What Jay says here is you're the first defense as a salesperson, right? It's like never. Don't be so determined to close a sale that 1A, sells something the team can't deliver, B, accepts too little money for the work, or C, promise a deadline that's impossible, demoralizing, unnecessarily urgent, repeatedly underestimating the time and work required, are all ways to lose heart, lose respect, and lose the talent on your team to someone who takes better care of them. So those are things you can't, especially if you're trying to build a team, you just cannot neglect those things.
And if you work for yourself, you can translate that to never sell yourself into a hole. Don't sell something that you can't deliver. Don't accept too little money for something you are doing. So team, individual, make sure the specs are right. Make sure that they're fair. Make sure that they can be completed.
Yeah. Okay, now let's go back to number 7, the takeaway. I named this the takeaway. This is something we used to call in sales. And this is essentially like pulling something away. It's like a kid, right? A kid could have a toy sitting on the floor or a whole carpet full of toys, and another kid walks up and picks up one toy, and all of a sudden the kid, whose toy it is, who wasn't even paying attention, is like, I want that toy, right? This is like a basic primal psychological thing. If you take something away from somebody, they want it even more, right? And so he's saying here, whenever I've gotten off on the wrong foot with a client, or if I really hate their tone in the first conversation, I make 2 or 3 recommendations to vendors I think they should talk to. I even make introductions. Very often they come back fighting their way to my door. And so when you are in a position where somebody wants to work with you and you say, no, that may not work for us, right? They're going to be like, no, that's not what I meant. And so it puts you in a different dynamic, and you can fake some of this with what I call indifference. This goes back to that walkaway power. These things all stack on top of themselves, right? If you have some walkaway power, you can be a little more indifferent in that takeaway. If it's the only deal and you're trying to pretend like, oh, well, I don't really need it, but you do need it, it's hard to fake that, that comes off in your communications. Whereas if you do have that, if you have the ability to take something away from the client and mean it, they often come back. They want it even more. They're willing to pay more. They're willing to understand, because they understand, right? Oh, this is your value you provide. This is why I came to you in the first place. So don't let people forget that. Again, this all stacks up. Joe, thoughts there?
This just happened to us. I think I spoke about this a few streams ago, where we had a client come to us very rude. Inappropriate deadlines, inappropriate specs, like all of this, it was demanding, and it was a really, really bad look for us. So we politely said goodbye. And this is a company we've done work with in the past for a long time, but a new project manager that was not very nice. So we said goodbye. This is not for us. We're going to lose out on a lot of future work, but it's okay. I think 2 weeks later, they came back, apologized, and they were ready to work under our terms. And now we've entered 2 separate contracts with them. Just because we walked away. We said, we're not doing this. We're not doing this. We're not doing this. We're not doing this. This is not how we work. And this just relates so well that when people really want to work with you, they're going to come back. And if they don't want to work with you, don't force it, right? This was the one before. Don't force it if they want to walk away.
Yeah. And that kind of wraps up those 8 tips from Jay. Super helpful. I think we could do these sales. Joe, we riff so good on these sales things. Joe and I have
Yeah.
talked about doing like a deep sales, like a small group sales training thing. I wonder if anybody would be interested in that. Leave your thoughts in the comments if that's something you might be interested in, doing little workshops like that. Joe, what are you thinking?
Well, I think sales is one of the top things that Finsweet is good at. And that's because a lot of people in our company come from a sales background. Me, you, Jay, the people that are running the sales, the people that are marketing the company have sales background. So I like to think that we are talented in sales. And maybe this is the reason why we don't design anymore, because I'm not a designer. I'm not properly leading the design part of the company, but I can properly lead the sales part of a company. I always love these episodes. So
Yeah.
yeah, if you're loving this, please tell us, let us know. We can do more of them. And let's get into QA. I don't want
Yeah,
to forget this. We
yeah,
have a lot of good
we
questions
we
here.
do. We're gonna need to spend some time, and we got it all in under an hour. We didn't get as much back and forth, but we did get
Uh-huh.
most of the nut of this into the first hour here. I wanted to say one thing, just kind of trickling off of that. We've had almost 90. We've had over 90 at some point. I know the stream quality is a little laggy, but this just goes to show that when you deliver the value, like people will stay through it, and when it's honest. Like somebody brought this up earlier. Let me see if I can find this comment real quick. Albert Franklin here. Was saying, I've never seen an agency so willing to share their knowledge and technology. It feels so natural to listen to you guys. You mean what you say. Please keep up the good work. You're the best folks. We appreciate
Nice.
that. Yeah, that's it. Like there's no script here. Like we have an outline. I asked Jay last week, hey, we're going to be talking about sales. Can you send me your top tips? Joe and I spent some time going back and forth. We have a Notion doc. Actually, like sometimes we don't get that finished till like, half hour before the show. Like this is just us kind of off the cuff every week, trying to share as much as we can with the audience. And so we appreciate that. You all appreciate that. It really is kind of candid. And that's proof is that there's so many folks still watching with the,
Yeah.
even though the audio is still good. So maybe they're just listening in the background. And we're about to launch a podcast, y'all. Hey, what? sneaky
Yeah.
little announcement for those in the background.
Nice.
Yeah, the
Nice.
audio for these things is going to be, I got Gabe working on some of that. Shout out to Gabe in the background. Hopefully in the next week or so, we're going to be releasing podcast version of all of this. And now into the comments, Joe. Is there anything specific that you see that you'd like me to pull up?
Well, earlier in the episode, there were a few questions about where do I learn about accessibility? This was, a few people asked this, and this was on our list for things that you need to deliver in 2022. Websites that follow accessibility practices. So I'm going to share our accessible components project in Webflow. Just looking at these components, reading through the dropdowns, understanding how a checkbox, a radio, a select, all these different web elements are accessible, it's going to get you to that next level. We're going to be releasing some content over the next month or two that is very accessibility focused. And then finally, we're going to have a big push in attributes for accessibility related solutions. Opening a pop-up, closing a pop-up, making all of that accessible, these types of things that normally require JavaScript, but we will put it into attributes. So my answer to that is just follow us. We're not just talking about this because we think it's a good idea. We're talking about it because we are doing it. We truly believe in it. So if you follow us for the next 2, 3, 4 months, you're going to get a wealth of accessibility training specific to Webflow.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, moving on to another comment. Gabriel Dufresne here asks, would love to know your opinion on e-commerce. Webflow platform is still lacking compared to other options. For sure, I do. We don't spend a lot of time on e-commerce because we don't use or sell e-commerce in Webflow yet. Because we think it's a little it doesn't have all the features we need yet. But I think as that evolves, we probably will, and you'll see us have more content on e-commerce stuff. So I think that's probably all we'll say on that. Let's see. This is a good one, Joe. If you can read that there.
I wonder if someone has done a video breaking down how they approach Webflow client projects from the brief to the site going live. Even briefly, I feel like my process needs fine tuning. Elsa, this is a good one. The first thing that comes to my mind is that this process may be very different depending on the type of work you do, depending on the specs of the project. I like the idea. I think we can come up with some episodes that talk more about getting that client from, hey, I'm ready to move forward with you, to starting the project. So yeah, that's a good one. But yeah, oh, here we go from Gabriel. I think John D. Saunders has something like that on his channel. Check him out. He has really great content, 5-4 Digital. So yeah, start there, and I think we'll be talking more about that this year.
Yeah, I for sure. I didn't mean to, you know, cut you off or kill your train of thought there. But John is a good resource for that in the community. And there's a lot of other
Yeah.
folks that go into the process. And what I would encourage anyone is to not just find someone's process and be like, oh, that's my process now, right? Go find as much as you can about people's process, and then take what works from John and takes what works from Joe and takes from work from Aaron Kornblit and automate all the things, and grab what you can from this little nugget and make your own thing. You know, that's where it's going to be the most effective. So don't just go and looking for like, this goes back to Elsa's comment here. You know, there's lots of resources on this, and I would pull from as many as possible to just figure out what fits you the best there. Um, let's see. Ezekiel, I work at a coffee shop a few days per week. The financial benefits, sales made, relationship built from this weekly practice has been exponential. Yeah,
Nice.
a lot of people do the online only thing. Lots of people have a lot of value from the local thing, right? So just showing that networking in general, whether it's in person or online, can be super beneficial. Grace was saying, I've started building relationships with branding. I think she said studios. She corrected that later. Love building a site for a company that has undergone a thorough branding process, and it's often not something the studio wants to do. So a good little tip from Grace there.
Nice. That's a great strategic partnership, right? So instead of the branding agency saying, hey, we only do branding, we don't touch anything else, versus we do branding and we have Grace who designs websites and builds websites. This is much better for the branding studio and, of course, for Grace. So this is a great example of a strategic partnership for sales.
Yeah. Okay, let's see. What else is in here? Max Norris was asking how to find employees at the beginning. I think this was our first episode, Joe. How to plan for growth and hire, how to hire and plan for growth, or something like that. So Max, go check out the old episodes.
Yeah, check out those old ones. It's the short answer to that. It's difficult, and you have to start small. Start with just teaming up with somebody, doing a sample project together, building a clonable together. Uh, don't don't try to bring somebody on full time paid without really understanding who that person is and if you work well with them.
Yeah. Or having enough work to make sure that you don't have to like let them go next month, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
Although, yeah, you shouldn't be necessarily committing in those early stages to fixed cost. You should maybe be approaching them on, you know, a per project basis. So all sorts of things to think about there, Max. Definitely go back and listen to those early episodes. There's a ton of, even the sales stuff. If this sales stuff was exciting for you and you got, you know, like you want more, there's a number of episodes. If you go to finsweet.com/growth, on the right side there, going through the archive and look, there's a bunch of sales related episodes. Caleb is saying if you convince when they're hesitant or not a good fit, it can cause issues down the road 100%. So avoid the headaches, you know, save yourself the headaches.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. And Ezekiel's saying pushing back on a potential client brings security and confidence. That's how they know you know your stuff. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. A lot of people would just test you, right? A lot of people, like I used to have a mentor and he would ask me questions all the time. He'd ask me all these questions. And I thought he was like, trying to pick me apart, or he was trying to like criticize me. And what he was really trying to do was to make sure that I had thought through the different things that he was thinking through that were maybe at a higher level than I was at. And while sometimes it was annoying for me to kind of be answering those questions sometimes for him, it was, you know, it got me always thinking through all these different things, all these different aspects of whatever it was that I was doing. And so a lot of times people ask questions to understand, not necessarily, and to know that you understand, right? And so it's not necessarily like, don't take those as a bad thing. And I think we have a ton of stuff on, we could do a whole show on questions and conversations.
And you can push these questions onto your leads, asking asking these types of questions to your leads is going to help them understand that you know what you're talking about. What are your problems with your site? Where are you failing? How can it be better? What's the worst thing about your website? These kind of questions that may come off as not nice, but really what you're trying to do is help the person and help them understand why they're making a decision, what the initial problem was, and then how you can go and solve that.
Yeah, for sure. Pete is saying, is there ever a situation where Squarespace is a better fit than Webflow? Yeah, I mean, if somebody needs a single website and they don't want to take the time to learn Webflow, like Webflow is going to be a big hurdle for somebody like that, right? If I'm just a single solo dolo somebody over here and I don't have any technical inclination, I could see where there might be other solutions for that person. I, as a creator, do not think so, because I personally love the ability to have full control, and that's why I fell so hard for Webflow. But yeah, that's not to say that there are not use cases where for somebody it may make sense. I don't think he's asking follow up, am I off base here? I don't think you're off base. I just think in this audience, you're going to find folks hard pressed to capitulate to that.
I actually recommended Squarespace a few weeks ago to somebody, which it was the first time I've ever done this, but it just made sense. It was a local business. The person was not very technical. They didn't have a big budget. They wanted to really do most or all of the work on their own. And they don't have any interesting code. This
Right.
person was older and just not into tech. They didn't care about that. So Squarespace is a good option for that. You're going to lose the design control. The person's not a designer. You're going to lose a bunch of things, but this could be a huge benefit to that local business who just needs the one site and doesn't want to worry about other things. So yeah, it's possible. I wouldn't go recommending Squarespace for your leads.
Right.
Just casual, oh no, Squarespace. But of course, every platform has its benefits and its cons.
Yeah. And if you get a lot of people that are coming to you in that realm that are going back and forth, you probably want to try to get into that next bump of a tier. You probably want to figure out how you can elevate that lead flow. So actually, and this is a good step, Adrian's saying here, sometimes the bad news is that you become too expensive for a former client to continue with, which is a good time for you to refer them to somewhere cheaper in your network, or somebody that does, maybe somebody who can kind of deliver that work at a lower cost point. So let's see.
That's a sign that you're growing.
Yeah.
To Adrian's comment, this has happened to Finsweet a number of times. The companies we were working with in year 1, 2, and even 3, they're like, whoa, I mean, the hourly was $50 when I worked with you when we were just starting. So yeah, this is a sign of growth. I think this is a good thing when your old clients can't work with you anymore and you can set them up with somebody who is very happy to work with those people.
Yeah. Let's see. Penny, I turned down a client last year because I just had a feeling we weren't going to be on the same page. Yeah,
Nice.
that's 100%. It did you. Never saw your team into a hole, for sure. And then Grace is following up here. Personality is one of the biggest factors on whether I'll send a proposal. If the client is great, it's an easy yes. Looking for kindness, big vision, and flexibility. And I love that.
Nice.
It's one of the big factors whether I'll send a proposal. So that means that in her process, she has a point where she can decide to send a proposal or not, right? Which sets her up for that takeaway or for that whatever, I don't know if this is intentional or not, Grace, but that would be cool to know from you. It's like, how often do you get to a place and not send that proposal? That may be interesting to have a conversation with some folks at some point. Any other thoughts there, Joe?
I keep going back to this walkaway power. You're able to do that when you have the walkaway power. This is something you need to work towards. So Grace, I see, is now taking full advantage of this, doubling the prices, gating people based on their personality. This is powerful. This completely changes the way you approach business and your day-to-day work. So love it.
Nice. Okay, let's see. Finsweet, helping Webflow freelancers become a career. Yeah, that was our goal for this show right from the beginning. When Joe and I started talking about doing a show, even before I was at Finsweet, we had talked about like doing something. This feels like forever ago now. It's funny. And we never wanted to do like, let's teach Webflow, even though we do some of that now on Thursdays. We always wanted to kind of approach this from a how to grow. That's why we called it effing growth. You know, we wanted to like, how do you grow your business? How do you grow as a professional? How do you grow your career? And so that's one of the things we really like to focus on, which kind of, you know, especially with the numbers on this episode here, we should maybe, not forget to bring the sales stuff into the mix pretty regularly. I think we stepped away from that for a little while over the last, since Clone Comp, I think.
Yeah.
Let's see. Case. Have you guys heard about anything on recent announcement? Webflow Logic and membership tools will be released. Joseph Bates is asking. Membership is in closed beta right now. I think folks who are able to use it are under signed NDAs, so not really a lot happening or talking about that right now. Logic, I don't think anybody has access to Logic yet, other than internally. You know, as you know, if they have internal testing on that. That's all we know. Jay, kudos. I've become a large equity owning partner to a huge company from all my skills learned through Webflow and knowledge from the Finsweet community. So much love for all of you. Congratulations.
Oh yeah. Yeah, Jay has been with us since episode 1. Right, Jay? I mean, we see Jay pretty much every week here. So great. That's exactly what we're looking for, Jay. Happy to have you in the community.
Yeah, great to hear that. Fernando says you can launch Finsweet mentorships. Maybe we will have something like that to announce at the open house. We are for sure working on paid membership tiers for our community, and those will have a couple different tiers. We're actively looking at that now, and that will include some of that workshop stuff that we talked about before, and maybe some of that smaller group stuff. Okay, trying to see if there's anything else that we've missed that's important to get to. Not that if your comment doesn't get brought up, it's not important to get to, just that it's relevant to the show here and that we have time to get to. This Bernice, some of the freelance platforms that have good, decent. We did an episode on this pretty recently called "Why Upwork is Not the Answer." I would recommend checking that out. It's like 4 or 5 episodes ago. I don't remember exactly how long, but check on the YouTube page for that, and we discussed that in detail.
I would like to think one of the best freelancer platforms for decent Webflow work is the Webflow Showcase. This is a freelancer platform. It just doesn't have the structured lead to sale system that a platform like Upwork has. But this is a freelancer platform. It's just a different way to get yourself out there.
Yeah. Yep. And that's the same thing for Brad Trippin here. Do you recommend when finding clients use freelance platforms or spend time finding leads locally and social media? Yeah, we've done a number of things about freelance platforms and where to generate leads. I would refer you back to the archive, and specifically that show about is Upwork, why Upwork is not the answer. We talked a lot about the freelance platforms and the pitfalls and the pros and cons to those platforms, and then go back to some of the lead generation episodes that we have as well, where we get into that stuff deep. Okay. I think that's
nice.
I think that's it.
All
I think
see.
that's all the comments. Yeah. Great point about
Cool.
bumping up to the next level, trying to get there. Yeah, we're all trying to get there. We're always trying to bump to the next level. We haven't done this in a disclaimer, actually, Joe. We didn't do the don't compare yourself to others like we usually do in the disclaimer.
Ooh.
Yeah, so yeah, it's hard. It's easy to do this and see us doing this, or see somebody that you admire doing this who's got a big audience and who's, you know, got all the deals, and you're like, man, I'll never be there. But that's not how it is, right? It's baby steps, because we didn't just flip on. Yeah, even this stream. Right? Yeah, we got to 100 folks. There's still 64 folks just kind of listening to us to ramble to Q&A here. You know, when we started, like, well, I guess, you know, like sometimes we didn't even get to 64, right? And some of those early episodes, 30, 40
20,
people,
30,
you know, 20 people, 30 people, whatever, right? So, like, it takes time, and just give yourself some grace.
And we were excited about that. I remember, right?
Yeah.
20, 30, 40 people. That was a huge win.
Yeah.
And now,
now our Thursday streams are getting 50,
level.
60 people. Like, now our secondary streams are doing, you know, as much as our early primary streams, and we're going to keep adding. So let's see, Pete's saying this stream is really opening my eyes to the Webflow Showcase as lead generator for sure. I still get leads from there that I forward to our sales team. Like, I got one the other day. People just, yeah, they still reach out. It just takes
And
time for sure. Go ahead.
I'd like to comment on Pete's
Yeah,
comment here
sure.
that Webflow Showcase is a lead generator. There's I think, two really good ways for it to not be just for Webflow builders. Number one, if you get featured, popular tab, that is a direct link from webflow.com. So people on webflow.com who are seeing if it's a good platform for their company, they may click through to that showcase. And if you're on that popular page, someone's going to find you. It's difficult to do. You may have 40 clonables before you get on that page, but that's a big
Yeah.
one. Number two, searches. Webflow Showcase has really good search in Google. So if you are creating something that people are searching for, whether that's a filtering example, whether that's an accessibility training, whether that's whatever, and people are searching for that, they can find your project without clicking through all of the pages
Mm.
of the showcase. So yeah, there's a lot of Webflow builders in there, but there's definitely people that will find you outside of the Webflow builder community.
Yep. Yeah. I think that's great advice to close it with. Hopefully, there was some value there for anybody who's looking to sell more websites in 2022. There's a lot to digest in that. And so try not to overwhelm yourself doing it all at once. Pick small steps, right?
Yep.
Think about that sales process, right? The 5 steps of the sales process. Start at step 1. How do I get more people's attention, right? That's step 1 to selling more. How do I get more people's attention? Now, how do I refine my story and how do I do a better job of telling that story to the folks whose attention I get, so that I can build trust, which is step 3, so that I can make the ask for the sale, which is step 4, so that I can put them into my pipeline of delivering and make them a raving fan, which is step 5. So appreciate everyone who's hanging with us. We'll be back. I'm not sure. We will do something Thursday. So we will be here Thursday.
Yeah.
Not really sure what we're going to do, but it'll be fun. It'll be interactive. It'll be a live build of some sort or some technical deep dive. So, Joe, any final thoughts? Are we out of here?
We're out of here. This was a great episode. If you are still sticking around, thank you. And yeah, we'll see you next week.
Yeah. And Jerry, looks like you talk about a workshop on selling. Yeah, I think we're going to do that. I can't tell you a timeline, but it's for sure on our radar. So we'll catch y'all later. Thanks for hanging out. What's that, Joe?
I was going to say, we could probably create a course on selling just from our past streams.
Right.
But we'll get to that another time.
we probably could just take those episodes and offer them as a little sales course. So, all right. Yeah. Take care. Catch you next week, everyone. Actually, catch you Thursday. Bye. Okay.